Get lights up and hit the bell and stay to the end.
Ref just warning about punches around the back. Oh, there's another. And straight away, looking for Binyenda. Big attack from the opening bell, and the right hand puts him down. Big power shots so far on this.
I think that hurt.
And uppercut.
Again, that was lovely.
Big right hand that lands.
He's hurt.
Gibb is hurt. And now he's down again.
He's trying to get.
Change 30s, he about to change that shit up.
Oh, there's a left hook on the top of the head by Paul.
Hey,
shit. Shot to the
body
body.
shot to them ribs. Bang, right to the
World champion Jean Pascal and
Get my
also
money,
cruiserweight
Jake.
contender.
All right, now that y'all have seen the highlights from some of their fights, let's go over the tail of the tape real fast. We got Tommy Fury coming at 21 years old, Jake Paul at 24. Tommy Fury's had 5 fights, no defeats. Jake Paul has had 3 professional fights, no defeats. You got Jake Paul coming in a little bit taller at 6'1", Tommy at 6 foot. However, Tommy has a longer reach at 80 inches versus Jake Paul's 76-inch reach. So therefore, the height advantage is negated. Tommy Fury will have the reach advantage. Before talking about the professional records, let's talk about their amateur records. Tommy Fury had 12 amateur fights. Now, the problem with Tommy Fury's amateur record is I don't know how many he won or lost. I found an article where he was talking about his amateur record, and from the way it read, it sounded like he lost 2 out of the 12 fights. So possibly went 10-2 or he went 11-1. I'm not quite sure because he said he fought for the national title. Sounded like he lost that. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comment section if y'all know. And it also sounded like he fought for a British amateur title, and he lost that one as well. Again, I do not know. Let me know in the comment section. However, in the 10 fights, I know at least he won 2 Northwest titles. I'm not sure what those are on the UK circuit, so somebody, once again, in the comment section, let me know that's from the UK. Now, so we have worst case scenario, a 10-2 record or an 11-1 record, best case scenario with Tommy Fury before he went professional. Jake Paul, on the other hand, only had 1 amateur fight. No titles won. After his first amateur win, he went professional. Getting into their professional records, this is where it gets a little hazy, a little gray, and a little weird. You got Tommy Fury, who's had 5 professional fights, more than Jake Paul, who's only had 3. However, he has fought guys with atrocious records, as y'all saw at the start of this video. Combined, all 5 fighters he's fought combined, their record is 12 wins, 174 losses. Let me say that again. 12 wins and 174 losses. That's crazy. Whereas Jake Paul has had 3 professional fights, and all 3 of the guys that he fought, it was their debut. So they had no wins, no losses. Jake Paul gave them all losses, obviously, because he has not lost. However, you could come back to Ben Askren and say, well, he may not have had a boxing record, but he definitely had a MMA record of 19-2, which is better than anything Tommy Fury has fought. Punching power. Who's got the harder punch? This is very hard to decipher, very hard to tell, because Tommy Fury, out of his 5 fights, has had 4 knockouts. He had 1 guy who he did not knock out in his debut. The guy that he did not knock out had 10 wins, 102 losses with 3 draws. So being that a guy that bad, and I didn't even bother to look up his record, I'd imagine he's probably been knocked out quite a few times with those 102 losses. I don't know how hard he really hits because, again, everybody he's fought, very low opposition. At the same time, the same argument can be made about Jake Paul. That it's very hard to tell how hard he can hit because, as far as boxing terms goes, very low opposition. But I can say this. Ben Askren has been tested. His chin has been proven to be very durable. And the first clean punch that Jake Paul landed on him dropped him. He took a nosedive into the canvas. So I would say from the eye test, I think Jake Paul, for single punch, has the harder punch, being that he did drop Ben Askren like he did. Boxing ability. This is more important, in my opinion, than punching power. A prime example of this is Tommy Fury's older brother, Tyson Fury, when he fought Deontay Wilder. Deontay Wilder by far had the more powerful shot. However, it didn't mean anything in the rematch because Tyson Fury's boxing ability was so much greater than Deontay Wilder's, he could not land that shot. So with that being said, one single hard punch will not determine the outcome of a fight in all cases. This right here, when I look at these two guys fight, by far, Tommy Fury is much better than Jake Paul when it comes to boxing ability. His movement is good. His head's not still like Jake Paul's. He's always moving side to side. When he throws punches, they come in bunches, and they have different touches to him. So when I see Jake Paul throw a punch, everything he throws is hard, and that's good if you're accurate. However, he misses a lot by winging them. Like, especially against that guy Gibbs in his first fight. This dude was another YouTuber, I believe, and he was doing a lot of like bending at the knees. He was trying to bob and weave, but it looked horrible because it was very off balance. But Jake Paul was having a lot of issues hitting him. A lot of shots went winging over his head when he fought Nate Robinson. Very ugly fight, very hard to fight somebody because it was a lot of chaos with Nate just running at him, charging, swinging his hands like he was swimming in water, pretty much windmilling. So very hard, but he did miss wide on a lot of shots. And even against Ben Askren, he got off balance a couple of times, throwing wild, hard shots. That's where loading up on all your punches becomes a negative. Also, it's a negative because when you're fighting somebody, you don't want to throw everything power. The reason for that is you want to do like a little tap, 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 so their mind gets tricked to, this isn't so bad, and then bam, you hit them hard. And then it sends a shock to the brain because it doesn't know what the hell just happened. It was getting little love taps, then it got a knockout punch landed on it. So you want to change up your punches because if you come in there and you hit somebody who can take your shots, like bam, 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 bam. The problem is, if the person could take the shots, the more you hit them hard like that, especially back-to-back with no changing in the levels of the punches, you become like very adaptive to it. You start being able to absorb it easier and easier and easier and easier. And that hard shot that hurt you at first no longer hurts you towards the mid to later rounds in the fight because you're like, okay, now I'm mentally prepared. This is all this guy's got. I've done 8 these. Yeah, they hurt, but I know what it feels like now, and I can push through it. Whereas when you tap, like I said, and then hit hard, it just throws the body off. It shocks the system. So Jake Paul loads up a lot, whereas Tommy Fury, I see him do a lot of little pity patterns. Boop, 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 boom, hard punch. Boop, 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 boom, hard punch. And then I see better body movement by Tommy Fury, as I said earlier. And one of these highlight clips I showed, it shows Tommy Fury going underneath winging shots like Jake Paul would throw at him. And very good at bobbing and weaving. So here's the thing about it. And here's how I look at this fight. Jake Paul is not ready for somebody like Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury comes from a boxing family. You go all the way up to Big John. You go to Huey. You go to Tyson. I'm not even going to name them all. The whole Tyson Fury, or I should just say the whole Fury lineage is just filled with boxing knowledge. Like, these guys, they know how to box. They know the sport. And even though Tommy looks to have started later and not had the experience of a Tyson, he still grew up in a boxing family around people who know boxing. So you're going to retain that to some degree. Whereas Jake Paul, he didn't grow up like that. Whenever he was in high school, he was doing wrestling. Wrestling's good. Terrence Crawford came from a wrestling background, but it's not going to help you in the ring. Now, Jake Paul has a lot of world-class fighters around him. I think Tommy Fury just went to Sugar Hill, where his brother's at. So good trainer right there. But at the end of the day, when I look at these two on paper, neither guy has really fought a threat when it comes to boxing. Both guys are fighting. I can't say inexperienced for Tommy Fury. Tommy Fury is just fighting guys who plain out suck, who are trash, who are garbage, who just there to make your record look good. But if anybody looks at your record, they'd be like, holy fuck, these dudes weren't even worth fighting. Whereas Jake Paul, he's fighting more novice guys. You don't know if they're good or bad because they've never fought before in boxing terms. I know Ben Askren's fought before, but I'm talking about just strictly boxing. So you don't know if they're going to be good or bad. It's a mystery, a question mark behind them because you've never seen them fight. You would assume they would be bad, but some people are born to where they just know how to fight. Some people coming in 16, 17 years old, 15, 14, can walk into a gym without a day of training and they can get in there and look good, make a good account of themselves day one against guys who have been training, sparring, amateurs for a year or two, and they can hang with them from day one. So when you're fighting a guy who you've never seen box, that's the question mark factor. You don't really know what they're going to bring till they're in the ring in front of you. So I don't really know who to give it to, because you could say the experienced fighters, Tommy has fought as bad as they are. However, they're only good for losing. Whereas Jake Paul has fought inexperienced guys, and we didn't know if they were going to be good or bad till fight night. So I kind of say that that's a wash. It's a wash. At the end of the day, how I look at this is this. Jake Paul has one advantage. That is single shot power. However, he doesn't have the reach, and the height's not going to help him. 1 inch difference in height, but 4 inch difference in reach, that equivalates to this. Tommy Fury's going to have a 1 inch longer reach when it comes to landing shots. So what do I mean by that? How do I do that? If he has 4 inches in reach on Jake Paul, you cut that in half, because you half your body, that's your arms. So cut that in half, that means he's got a 2 inch reach advantage in each arm. We know that Jake Paul is 1 inch taller. So chop that inch off and you're left with 1 inch in both arms that's longer than Jake Paul, even when you equivalate his body lean into it or his lean back. So again, the advantage goes to Tommy Fury in reach, movement, combinations, evasion, touch, all go to Tommy Fury. The only advantage that I can give Jake Paul is a single shot. And I'm not even sure that on a guy like Tommy Fury, he can land that single shot. Because Tommy Fury might just come straight at him, dance around him, and he's going to be throwing punches in bunches, which is something that Jake's never experienced. He's got in there with guys like Gibbs. From what I saw, he was just bobbing and weaving horribly and not really letting shots go. Nate Robinson was just kind of like windmilling, so that's not really chaining shots together. That's just, here comes 1, here comes 2, here comes 3, here comes 4, here comes 5, here comes 6. So the point of me doing that is so you can see the timing of it. You know when they're coming. Whereas when Tommy Fury's throwing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. They're coming in repetition. There's no 1, 2, 3, 4. It's not as much of a time delay. So you can't really time it to come over the overhand like Jake Paul did when they're coming 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's how Tommy Fury fights, full steam ahead. And I don't know how Jake Paul is going to deal with that type of pressure, having punches in his face the whole time. So again, I think business-wise is a bad move for Jake Paul. I think Tommy Fury is too experienced for him. If you do their combined records between amateur and pro, you're looking at a guy with 17 fights versus a guy with 4 fights. He's just not ready. And I know everybody wants to see Jake Paul get his ass whooped, or everybody wants to see Jake Paul fight what they consider a professional fighter, but here's the fact of the matter. None of the professional fighters have, I shouldn't say none, very few professional fighters have good starter fights. Case in point, Tommy Fury. Look at how atrocious these are. If you look at the first 5 to 10 fights that most professional fighters fight, it's guys that they're getting paired up against that their handlers know they can beat. They're guys to make their guys look good, to give them sometimes some rounds, but in a fight that's pretty much guaranteed that they're going to win. So the fact that Jake Paul needs to jump in there with a world champion or a top-class, world-class boxer is just stupid. And that's by people who just hate the dude, want to see him get his ass whooped, and trying to push him too far forward. The reason why I made this video is because Jake Paul was saying that him and his team are in negotiations with Tommy Fury's team right now with Max Kellerman. So, again, I think this would be a big mistake for Jake. He could win. It's possible. If he hits Tommy and knocks him out with one shot, I would say that the power is really real. I mean, I already think he has real power, but the thing is, I don't think he has the type of real power that's going to knock out guys who are used to taking punches all the time. I think he's got the type of power that knocks out somebody who's not used to taking shots. But whenever you get on the elite boxing level, I don't think he has that type of power that's going to knock them guys out. He doesn't have like Berlanga type power. And even Berlanga is a question mark because we haven't seen him in there with anybody really. But again, he doesn't have Deontay Wilder type knockout power, Anthony Joshua type knockout power. In my opinion, I just don't see it. I think he's got a hard hit. But at this point in time, I don't think he has that type of devastating power, but I could be wrong. Again, to conclude this long video of comparing the two, if they were to fight, I've got Tommy Fury winning by knockout in probably the second or third round. I doubt it makes it out of the third round, and it would be very likely that Tommy Fury could finish him in the first round because Jake Paul is just, he's not good enough at his movements to stop somebody who's going to be able to throw accurate, consecutive punches coming forward at him and be able to bob and weave while doing it. He's not on that level yet. He's not. He's still, in my opinion, a very amateurish fighter. He's not. He should not even be a pro. But if he wants to take this serious, he needs to be matched with guys that are going to build him, not with guys like Tommy Fury who are going to overwhelm him. So my official prediction again to end this long video is this. If they are to fight, I pick Tommy Fury to win in between the second or third round, and I would not be surprised if Tommy knocks him out in the first round. Let me know what y'all think in the comment section.